In the heart of a sun-drenched land where the wheat swayed like gold, lived a young man named Eli who felt a stirring in his soul that the quiet life of his father's farm could no longer satisfy it all. His father, a wise and patient patriarch named Amos, had spent his entire life tending to the earth and his family, building a legacy of peace and prosperity that stretched as far as the eye could see. Alongside them worked Samuel, the eldest son, whose heart was as steady as the oak trees on the ridge, finding deep contentment in the rhythmic labor of the harvest and the safety of his father's house. But Eli's eyes were always fixed on the distant purple mountains, wondering what lay beyond the borders of the estate, dreaming of a life filled with excitement and the freedom to make his own rules. The stability of the farm felt like a weight to the young man, and every sunrise brought a fresh wave of longing to escape the predictable cycles of planting and reaping that defined his family's existence. One morning, the tension within Eli reached a breaking point, and he approached his father in the courtyard, his jaw set with a firm resolve that masked the underlying fear of the choice he was making. With a voice that wavered only slightly, Eli made a request that cut through the morning air like a blade, asking for his share of the inheritance immediately so he could seek his fortune in the world.
How long?
Amos looked into his son's eyes and saw the hunger for independence, a pang of deep sorrow striking his heart as he realized that no amount of logic or love could keep Eli from the path he had chosen. Without a word of protest or a spark of anger, the father began the painful process of dividing his hard-earned wealth, honoring his son's agency, even though it meant watching a piece of his heart walk away. The day of departure arrived under a heavy sky, and Eli packed his few belongings, his pockets heavy with silver, but his spirit strangely light with the false promise of a life without any boundaries. As Eli stepped past the stone gate, he did not look back at the silhouette of his father standing on the porch, a lone figure framed by the setting sun, watching until the boy was nothing but a speck. The journey to the great city was long, but Eli's excitement grew with every mile, fueled by the glittering stories of travelers who spoke of endless nights, exotic treasures, and a world where money was king. When the city gates finally rose before him, they were more magnificent than he had ever imagined. A labyrinth of white marble and silk banners that seemed to pulse with an energy he had never felt.
To the harvest!
Eli quickly found himself surrounded by new companions, men and women who were drawn to his sudden wealth like moths to a flame, laughing at his jokes and praising his boldness as the silver flowed. He traded his simple farm tunics for robes of fine purple and gold, spending his days in indulgence and his nights in celebration, convinced that he had finally found the true meaning of a life well lived. For a time, the thrill of the unknown was enough to mask the hollowness of his new friendships, and Eli felt like a conqueror in a kingdom of his own making, far from the watchful eyes of his family. But as the weeks turned into months, the bottom of his coin purse began to appear, and the lavish parties that once felt so vibrant started to feel like a performance he could no longer afford to give. A great famine began to sweep across the land, turning the lush markets of the city into desperate hubs of scarcity. And suddenly, the friends who had praised Eli were nowhere to be found in his need. With his last coin spent on a morsel of bread, the young man who had once dreamed of being a king found himself wandering the cold stone streets, his fine robes now tattered and stained by the city's grime. Hunger became a constant companion, a gnawing ache that stripped away his pride and forced him to seek work among the very lowest of society. Far from the luxury he had so briefly and foolishly enjoyed. He found himself in a muddy field, tasked with feeding swine, a job that was a bitter irony for a son of Amos, standing in the filth while the animals he tended ate better than he could ever hope to. As he watched the pigs struggle over husks of corn, a memory of home flickered in his mind, a vision of the warm kitchen and the abundant tables where even the lowest servants were treated with dignity. The realization hit him with the force of a physical blow. He had traded a kingdom of love for a wasteland of husks, and his heart finally broke under the weight of his own arrogance and failed dreams. I will arise and go to my father, he whispered into the wind, rehearsing the words of a beggar, hoping only for a place among the hired hands, for he knew he was no longer worthy of the name of his son. With feet that were blistered and a spirit that was crushed, Eli began the long trek back toward the Golden Hills. Every step a painful reminder of the distance he had put between himself and his home. Back on the estate, Amos had never stopped watching the horizon, his hair turning whiter with each passing season as he prayed for the return of the boy who had vanished into the shadows of the world. On a quiet evening as the shadows lengthened across the fields, Amos saw a figure limping along the dusty road, a person so broken and small that most would have turned away without a second thought. But the eyes of a father see through the masks of tragedy, and Amos recognized the gait of his son, a surge of adrenaline and joy washing over his tired limbs as he did something no patriarch should do.
The sunset blesses us this evening.
He ran, his robes fluttering behind him like wings, his heart beating with a rhythm of pure grace as he crossed the distance to meet the one who had been lost in the darkness for far too long now. Eli fell to his knees as his father approached, ready to deliver his practiced speech of repentance. But before a single word could escape his lips, he was gathered into a fierce and tearful embrace. The smell of the earth and the warmth of his father's chest overwhelmed the young man, and the wall of shame he had built around his heart began to crumble under the weight of such unexpected mercy. Father, I have sinned against heaven and in your sight, Eli sobbed, his face buried in the blue robes of Amos. I am not worthy to be called your son. Please just make me as one of your hired servants.
Blessed be the Lord for your sake.
Amos did not even acknowledge the request for servitude, instead turning to his approaching workers with a voice that rang with the authority of a love that had triumphed over every single ancient debt. Bring out the best robe, the one reserved for royalty, and put it on him, the father commanded, and put a ring on his finger and sandals on his feet, for the prince of this house has finally come home.
This feast will be the
The estate erupted into a frenzy of preparation as the fatted calf was led to the slaughter, and the musicians began to tune their instruments, for a miracle had occurred in the light of the setting sun.
Let us raise.
This son of mine was dead and is alive again, Amos declared to the gathering crowd.
Isn't it, my
He was
son?
lost and is found. And let us eat and be merry, for the night of mourning has passed into a day of joy. But as the music began to drift over the hills, Samuel returned from the far fields, his body aching from a day of honest toil, only to find the house transformed by a celebration he did not understand. He asked one of the servants what the occasion was. And when he heard that his brother had returned and a feast was being held, a cold wall of resentment rose up within his tired and frustrated heart. Samuel refused to go inside, standing in the shadows of the courtyard as the light of the torches flickered against the walls, his mind racing with the unfairness of a grace that seemed so reckless.
The light is warm.
Amos came out to entreat his eldest son, his eyes soft with a different kind of pleading, recognizing that the son who stayed home could be just as lost as the one who had wandered into the city.
My heart aches for your return.
Look at all these years I have served you, Samuel cried out, never once disobeying your command. Yet you never gave me even a young goat, so I could celebrate with my friends in the cool of the night. But as soon as this son of yours comes back, the one who devoured your livelihood with harlots and wasted everything you gave him, you kill the fatted calf and throw the greatest party of all. My son, Amos replied gently, placing a hand on Samuel's shoulder, you are always with me, and everything that I have belongs to you. You have never been a servant in this house, but a true heir. It was right that we should make merry and be glad, for your brother was dead and is alive again. He was lost and is found. And your place at the table is just as vital as his return to our family. The parable ends with the door open and the feast in full swing. A powerful reminder that the heart of the Father is wide enough to hold both the rebellious wanderer and the self-righteous worker. Through the story of Eli and Amos, we see a reflection of a divine love that does not keep a record of wrongs, but instead stands on the edge of the road, waiting for us to take the first step back. No matter how deep the mud of the pig pen or how far the journey to the city, the grace of the Father is a bridge that can cross any chasm, offering a new robe and a ring to any who humble themselves.
The villa stands as a
Redemption is not earned through years of perfect service, nor is it lost forever through moments of profound failure. It is a gift that is always available to those who realize they are hungry for home. We are reminded that God's mercy is not a finite resource to be hoarded, but a river that flows toward the broken, the lost, and the weary, inviting everyone to step into the light of his healing. As the sun sets on the story of the prodigal, we are left with the image of a father's embrace, a symbol of the peace that awaits every soul that decides to turn around and face the direction of love.
Isn't it incredible?
May we find the courage of Eli to admit our need, and the heart of Amos to welcome others with open arms, and the wisdom of Samuel to realize that we are already rich in our Father's constant presence. For in the kingdom of grace, there is no distance too far to travel back, and there is no heart so hardened that it cannot be softened by the warmth of a home where the door is always left unlocked. Let the story of the return be your story today. If you feel the weight of the world pressing down on you, for there is a feast prepared and a Father who is running to meet you even as you read these words. The light in the window of the estate never goes out, a beacon for every wanderer who has lost their way in the glitter of the city or the silence of the fields, calling us back to our true identity. You are a child of the King, not a servant of the world, and your inheritance is not found in silver or gold, but in the enduring mercy of the one who created you and knows your name by heart.
The harvest looks.
So let the celebration begin in your own soul, as you lay down the husks of your past and put on the robe of a new beginning. For the Father is calling you to the table where you truly belong tonight.
Look there.
This
A long
timeless
journey, I
lesson
imagine.
of
Welcome
forgiveness
to our village.
continues
May
to
you find
echo
rest here.
through the centuries, reaching into the darkest corners of human experience and bringing a message of hope that can never be silenced or destroyed. Whether
Well
you are the
done,
one
little
in the
brother.
field
I knew
or the
you could
one on
do
the
it.
road, remember that the feast is for you, and the joy of the Father is complete only when all his children are gathered safely under his roof. We thank you for joining us on this journey through the lives of Eli and Amos, and we hope that the truth of this parable finds a resting place in your heart and brings you a sense of deep and lasting peace.
The harvest.
If
these
this
lands have
message
been
of
blessed,
grace has
not by the
touched
strength
you,
of our hands,
we invite
but
you
by
to
the
share
grace
it with
flowing
someone
from
who might
above.
need to hear
Let
that
us
they're
share this
loved
bounty.
and that their journey home is much shorter than they ever could have imagined. Every frame of this animation was crafted with the hope of conveying the beauty of restoration, a visual prayer
The
for those who
transcription is
feel
a bot
lost,
dot.
and a celebration for those who have finally found their way back home. As the
Here you go,
final
Eli.
notes of the
Careful,
celebration
it's hot.
fade into the evening
Wow,
air,
thank you,
let the
Samuel.
image
It
of the
smells
Father
amazing.
and his two
The
sons
shepherd
remain
said,
with you,
I cannot
a
leave
testament
the
to the
flock.
complexity
He was a
of
brave
family
man.
and the
Indeed,
simplicity
the bravest
of
in the
divine
valley.
love. There is no pit so deep that his love is not deeper still, and there is no journey so long that his grace cannot sustain you until you reach the gate where the Father is waiting with a smile of joy. This is the promise of the gospel, the heart of the parable, and the hope of the world, that we are never truly alone, and we are always invited back to the place where we were first loved. May you walk in the confidence of a son or daughter today, knowing that your past does not define you and your future is held in the hands of a Father who would leave everything just to find you. The story of the prodigal is a mirror for us all, showing us our own wanderings and our own need for mercy. But most importantly, it shows us the face of God, full of compassion and ready to forgive. Let us live as people who have been found, with hearts that are open to the wanderer and spirits that are quick to celebrate the return of any soul that has been rescued from the shadows of the world. For in the
Remember
end,
the covenant,
it is
my
not the
children.
depth of our sin that determines our
Always
destiny,
walk together
but the
in the
height of the
light.
Father's grace, a grace that covers every mistake and heals every wound with a touch of heavenly fire.
A toast to Amos and
Thank you for watching and for being a part of this community. As we continue to explore the stories that shape our lives and the truths that set us free in the light of God's enduring and perfect word. Don't forget to subscribe and like this video if it moved you, as your support allows us to keep creating cinematic experiences that bring these powerful ancient lessons to life for a new generation. We look forward to seeing you in the next story, but until then, remember that the Father is watching the road, and His heart is full of hope for you, no matter where your feet may have led you today. Peace be with you as you reflect on the journey of Eli and the love of Amos, and may you find yourself at the table of grace, surrounded by the family of God and the warmth of His eternal and holy light.
To the joining of our houses, may
The celebration never truly ends for those who live in the awareness of forgiveness. So carry the music of the feast with you into the world, and let your life be a song of gratitude and praise. For he who was lost is found, and he who is dead is alive. And in that simple truth lies the power to transform the world, one heart at a time, through the simple act of returning to the Father. Let the golden wheat fields and the stone villa be a sanctuary in your mind, a place you can always return to when the city feels too cold and the weight of your choices feels too heavy to bear alone. You are valued, you are cherished, and you are wanted, and there is nothing you can do to make the Father love you less, and nothing you could do to make Him love you more than He already does today. So take a deep breath and look toward the horizon, for the sun is rising on a new day, and the Father is already running toward you with open arms and a heart that has been waiting for this very moment. This is the end of Eli's journey of wandering, but it is only the beginning of his life in the light of his Father's house, a life defined by grace rather than greed, and love rather than longing. May we all find our way back to the heart of the Father, and may we all learn to celebrate the return of the lost with the same reckless joy that Amos showed on that dusty road so long ago now. Farewell for now, but keep the story close to your heart, for it is the most beautiful story ever told, the story of a love that never lets go and a home that is always waiting for you.